All right, everyone, this is James, the Giant Economy, and today we're going to talk about why crude oil has fallen and some thoughts and some ideas as of to why. Now, if you look at this chart right here, in the last 2 weeks, crude has fallen about almost $10 a barrel, right? That is a pretty decent swing. That's the equivalent of someone putting on probably 5 million extra barrels in the market, maybe 10 type thing, depending on how consumption goes. But we're going to go into some facts, some data on this, and I'm going to start off with what people are saying the reason is, right? Because a lot of times these things happen, but we don't really know what's behind the curtain, right? And no one can really pull back the curtain and see, hey, it's the wizard, not the big machine in the Wizard of Oz, right? So the thoughts that I found are, one, China's manufacturing is slowing down, right? And this is kind of sparks recession fears because China is a manufacturer mostly of the world, right? It's got cheap stuff. It produces there. Everybody knows it's made in China per se. And so if they're slowing down manufacturing, what that means is they're not getting as many orders to manufacture, which means the consumer's not buying as much, right? You follow it? So if manufacturing orders are flying up, then what that means is that, hey, there's lots of demand for products because the consumers are buying lots of stuff, okay? And it means the economy is probably going to rev up because there's a lot of money flowing, right? And money changing hands. Now, it depends how much you believe the data coming out of China, right? That's another issue. It is never real, it is never accurate per se. It could be a lot worse than it actually is. So maybe they had a drawdown of like 10% of manufacturing. It could be 30%, right? Or it could just be more milder. Most likely, they in my thoughts and my experience, they're trying to hide the 30% or something like that. But there's some other items that we're going to check out. So that's one of the items that the fears, right? The other thing is that it is Tuesday, September 10th, right? The election is literally about 2 months away. Yeah, coming November. I got to look up what actual day is election day, but the 5th. So we are literally under 2 months away from an election. So I was at an event last night, and someone threw in an idea that I was like, wow, that is very interesting. We have we have two parties jumping into this, right, that are going after it. One is currently in control. The other is trying to win and gain control. Even even though Biden is not, but Harris is still part of that administration, and kind of the ones that are, let's be honest, behind her are the same people. So there's an election coming up, and high crude prices, high oil gas pump prices, are going to say, hey, maybe we don't like this guy as much. Maybe it's harder to get votes, those marginal votes, right? People that could go either way. So low gas prices, a good economy always helps the incumbent president. In fact, did you know there has been no president in U.S. history, no incumbent president in U.S. history that has won re-election on a bad economy, right? When the economy's in the tank, America votes for the other person. That's just how it goes. So one of the thoughts that were floated yesterday is like, hey, traders, because oil and gas companies don't control the price of crude. They don't. Traders do, right? And traders are a little bit stuck between the fundamentals and the hearsay of the market. Okay, that's kind of like the two strong winds. Oil's a need, and so if there's a big shortage that come up, traders are going to jump in because they see the profits rise, right? Traders can also short the market, and this can artificially push prices down, okay? So one of the things that was floated yesterday was that someone in the current administration made some calls to some traders and said, hey, you need to short oil. And the trader might be like, well, that's kind of dangerous. I don't know about that. It's like, well, if you don't, let's get someone out there to take a look at your office and everything and make sure that you're all in order and in line and everything's up to par. And by the way, we're going to make sure that all the mortgage documents for that house that you just bought, a few years ago that they were in line because we think there might be some fraud in there. We're gonna roll over your taxes again. So in other words, they can create a headache for that person. Now, and then the person on the line says, I think we should short oil. That looks like a pretty good trade right now, right? And when you get 3 to 5 big people in New York or somewhere putting a lot of money, a lot of pressure against it, it's gonna push it down, right? If Warren Buffett took a large position against oil right now with all the money he's got, the pricing would fall considerably, right? This is like big whales make big splashes. And so that was floated, and I said, okay, I could see that as a truth behind it, right? But the issue is we really don't know why, and we won't know why, right? It could be they're taking more out of the SPR, but not recording it, right? Because we're going to look at the SPR data. They did that last time. The administration did that last time. They were shipping stuff out of the SPR, but not recording it. So they were putting more oil in the market, but not recording it coming out of the SPR, so people couldn't see the numbers. It's kind of like if a country like Russia or someone buys a bunch of gold, or China buys a bunch of gold, and they don't tell people that their gold inventories are going up, right? Because that would make the price go up, and they'd have to pay more. It's kind of like it's a way to cheat the system. Let's put it that way. But it happens. It's happening more as well. But yeah, so let's go through it. So the one caution that we had that we talked about last night is that if you're in crude or anything, like, brace, because we could in the next 2 months, like right before election, we could see $50 a barrel oil, right? We really could. There are thoughts and fears of that, and so it's seeming very temporary. We're gonna go into the numbers. Let's go into the chart really, but it seems very temporary. But let me pull this over here. But yeah, so this was the base of the line. Crude broke that. It broke it once, but sometimes it does that and pops back up and it's fine. And then it broke it again, right? And so that second break, that's bad. That's bad. That's more so crude is most likely to head down than up, if that makes sense. Now, how far? Well, the expected is where did I get this from? I think it's the first jump or something like that. So the expected is you pull from the middle, so it looks like it could go down to 62. I would actually say it could artificially pop down a little bit to maybe in the 50s. I don't think it's going to go down to $50. That is a heck of a leap, right? That's double that. In fact, let's just see if I'm measure from here down to here. Measure from the middle, approximately 54-ish is, I think, the max it'll go, right? Now after that, it should recover and we're going to go into some fundamentals here, and I'll show you. All right, let's look at. So here's the EIA. I grabbed the EIA numbers. Let's just look at them real quick. So again, in about the last 2 weeks, crude has gone down quite significantly. Okay. Crude oil input to refineries has not changed very much at all. Okay. Stocks of crude have not changed very much at all. They've actually gone down a little bit, right? Now again, that's the first. It's the 7th. The EIA takes a little time to catch up with their data. But if this was the trend, like if it's just bumping between these 3 numbers, it shouldn't really, it'd be very awkward to fly up. So especially because the input to refineries, what is going into the refineries, is not hugely different, unless America put in like a bunch of wells and just drilled with what they had. It's not going to go anywhere. In other words, these are the fundamentals talking to us, right? It doesn't seem like there's going to be a huge change by, what is today? Again, today's the 10th, and in the next week, right? Again, the EIA, their data takes some time to get in, so we'll know this in a few weeks. But it just doesn't seem like it, unless some petroleum is coming from the market somewhere, like the SPR. Someone's dropping a lot of petroleum in the market. Maybe some OPEC people are like saying, "Hey, we're just gonna do what we want," type thing. Again, you can go to EIA.gov, Petroleum Weekly Supply, and go from there. The EIA there is some people trust them, some people don't. It is a number that we can go off of, and a lot of traders go off of. Let's look at rigs. Actually, let's look at production versus rigs. So we are right over here. Again, production, and this is kind of the microns of it, right? I did the 5-year. Actually, let's go to the 3-month, and let's see here. This is August. Yeah, again, production numbers for these last 2 weeks haven't come in yet. So it's kind of weird. If in August, again, all last month, your production is kind of going up a little bit, up or down by 1.1 million, or so 0.1 million. It doesn't seem like it's going to fly up, right? 5 years. What I want to draw your attention to on this one is the issue of rigs, right? Because rigs produce wells, wells produce oil and gas, right? Rigs drill wells. So if there's a low rig count, so the high rig count, that means there's a lot of rigs making a lot of it. They're punching a lot of holes in the ground, right, to get oil and gas. Right now, we're at not an all-time low. COVID was an all-time low with 250. Well, about 250 rigs. We're about double that, a little higher, just under 600 for all rigs. You know, we got almost 500 oil and then like 94 natural gas. Again, it's natural gas since the beginning of last year or this year. It's just really gone down. But we've seen production go up, which is good because we have like maybe more better rigs, or so we're drilling better wells, right? But we've got less rigs to do, and this production, this incline can only go up for so long unless we keep putting new holes in the ground, right? Because you've got that first like few months, you get this big spike and you get a nice tail that lasts probably about a year or whatever, and then the decline curve can hit a bit hard, right? So if we don't keep producing oil at a certain rate, it's just going to go down. We're going to be left without it. So my point with this is that we've got a decent amount of production, right? Our rigs are lower. In fact, we've got almost about the same production as before the pandemic. That's important, but we got less rigs, which is saying, hey, the rigs are probably doing better jobs of producing more wells, right? Or the SPR has been like floating a lot of this production because it's counted as production, even though it's not actually production, right? And then here's the other thing I want to draw. So we've got less rigs. They're producing about the same, although that can fall off quite quickly. You see these dips again that fly in. If we stop producing oil and gas, or stop drilling, the rig count will probably go down again. In fact, one of the guys was telling me last night that when oil and gas company, let's say they have 10 rigs, right, and one breaks or they can't put it to work or use, right, because for one reason or another, it could be financing, it could be labor, it could be manpower, it could be just leases. You know, there's a few reasons. They give themselves like 3 months to figure out, hey, are we going to use this rig, or are we going to cannibalize it for parts for the other one, right? Oil rigs cost tons of money and take a lot of time to create. Okay, you were literally drilling miles into the Earth's core through all sorts of stuff. It's not something you can order on Amazon the next night. And so what they're doing is, if they don't put this rig back to work, they cannibalize it for parts for the other rigs, right? Because things break on rigs, you got to use them type thing. They cannibalize it for parts for the other rigs. And so what happens is, if we don't keep popping holes in the ground at a certain rate, they're going to start cannibalizing these rigs for the other ones, and we're going to see rig count go way, way down type thing. When it happened back here, they can just kind of put them in the yard per se. But nowadays, they're just cannibalizing because they need to keep the other rigs active. Those teams for those rigs, they don't get their jobs back or anything like that. There's a lot goes downhill when that happens. And again, the less rigs we have, the less wells we have producing, the less oil we have total, right? And that means the price will go up because we have less oil, as long as the consumption keeps the same. So let's look at consumption real quick. So this is a chart of the U.S. So again, we produce about 13 million barrels of oil a day, right? That's about our production, 13 plus or minus. Even back here in the pandemic, it was around 13 or so, like 12 to 13. Um, we consume, again, this is pre-pandemic, all the way back to the 2000s, even through the recession there in '08, the recession there. I mean, it went down by like a million barrels, and that's it. That's still a really good use of crude. Um, we're still consuming about 19 to 20 million barrels a day in the U.S. What does that mean? Well, James, we produce 13, we need 7. We actually import it from other countries to use. Oil is global, right? And so we import it from other countries to use, and we kind of horse trade a little bit, just for our refinery's sake. But we use a lot more than we consume, right? That's my point. And here's the last chart I want to show you. So this is before the pandemic. I can go back 10 years or so. I don't know if it'll work. Let's see here. Yeah, there we go. All right. So here is before the pandemic. This is actually during Trump's presidency, right? This line right here, this median $65 a barrel, it just bumped its head, bumped its head, bumped its head. Then we had the pandemic, and that artificially fell. Let's be honest, right? Popped back up, and then about a year later, so here it's April, and this is February. Yeah, not even a year later. So it blew back over this, and it has not been under that line for the last 3-ish years, right? The question is it going to pop below that line, right? I mean, that was unintentional because crude's about 65 right now, give or take. But it's a beautiful line because it just cuts straight through. I would probably put it maybe a little lower, maybe like right. No, that's actually a pretty beautiful line, yeah. That shows kind of a median price through the whole thing, right? Now this is a top, okay, topping pattern. What I think is going to happen, right, is this looks like a really good floor. Again, it could fall, it would be pushed artificially down a little bit. We're going to see, I think $65 a barrel. Let's go back to this chart. Again, $65 a barrel. It has not gone under 65 in a long time since, we had some dips here, but since about April, May of 2021, right? So that's a really good floor for oil right now. What I think will happen, right, and we can use this chart, we can use the other chart. Actually, we're going to use this chart. What I think will happen is that this is one top, right? We go here, come down, we kind of go sideways a bit, go down, and then at some time, oil is going to fly up again. It may not hit 120, it may just hit 100, whatever, but it's going to be what's called a double top, and it might chop down, chop up, whatever, and then it's going to go to the floor. I don't know when, I don't know how, I don't know what. A lot of times, these charts, they don't, they're really good at predicting things, but it feels like they predict the geopolitical stuff as well, which is hard to predict. But oil, my guess is oil's going to go down, and if it breaks this line at 65, that's going to be very telling, right? If it breaks it for much longer, yeah, it could be measured. It could go down to 54-ish. I doubt it's going to go down to 40. Like, there is just not enough, unless there's some real, where'd the rigs go? Here we go. Unless there's some real hee-haw, but there is not enough rigs to push it down. There's too much demand for consumption to push it down, right? Again, what pushed it down a lot this time was just a lot of fear in the market. If you go back to the COVID times, there's just a lot of fear in the market and an oil war between Russia and the Middle East, which did not help at all. But oil boomed back, right? It always does. So my point is, buckle up if you've got some oil assets. It might be a rough few months, right, until the election. And I think after the election, things are going to change one way or the other, whoever wins, right? I think it's artificially pushed down right now. Again, we've got the EIA data just shows us that it's going to be hard for the oil stocks to fly, the oil inventories to fly up, right? Consumption doesn't drop that fast. I think this price pop is just for fears, and maybe like, hey, what's going to happen in the next election? Kind of like a mix of fear and paralytic, if you will. But I think it's going to test this, and then we'll see if it bounces back up. Because if it tests around here, I mean, again, it might go into 50s, right, for a little time. Like here, it popped down, and it popped down to 50. But there's a fear it might go to 50s. I think it'll stay in the 60 range. This would be the floor, and then from the floor, it's just going up. And there's a lot of oil companies that are drilling right now. The smart ones drill when prices are around here, when prices are low, because everything, all of their costs come down, right? So you can, in other words, you can build the house here and you can sell it while it's up here, right? That's what oil and gas companies are doing. And so, yeah, it looks good type thing, but it looks like we're gonna have a bumpy ride for a little bit. Natural gas is still kind of on the floor right now. Natural gas will stay, I believe natural gas will stay somewhere in this range until a president, I don't know if it's going to be the next one or not, who wins, undoes the current administration's rule of the U.S. can't export natural gas, right? If we can't export it and it's all here, well, that's going to drive the price down, as you see, and that actually happened early this year. So natural gas was about here, and then that's when they knocked it down. So when it flew, it was in the 5s or so, and it flew all the way down to here. So that's what you get. Natural gas prices will probably go up by 50 to 100% minimum, in my guess, once that is repealed, and the rest of the world can get U.S. natural gas. But until then, we can only sell to ourselves. And if there's a lot on the marketplace, that's going to drive down the prices. So that's my thoughts on it. Again, if you are, I literally like this baseline right here, or in this area, I should say. You'll see people saying crude's falling, crude's going, blah blah blah. Yeah, crude does that. Crude bounces up and down. It happens, right? It's a commodity. But I think it's going to bounce, and then it's going to give us a second top, and then that second top, if our economy is weak, it's going to destroy it. It is, and it's going to knock it down, and crude will eat itself. This is what we see in historical charts throughout the years. Here's the 2008 one that did it. These don't really play back the historical ones very well. I can't get back over here. Okay. No, it won't be. Let me go past 85. All right. But you had the dot-com bubble, which crude just kind of plowed through, and they kind of went down and went back up type thing. I wish my parents had bought some mineral rights there and just let me inherit them type thing. That would have been great. Just swing up, comes down, up, down, like that. So I think it'll come up, test another double top. It might go up to only like $90, $100, but that's enough for oil and gas companies to drill, baby drill, and just put stuff in. Also, another thing, while I'm on that subject with Trump, he wants to drill, baby drill. We only have 800. We only have 582 rigs. What are we gonna? And they're working overtime right now, right? To where they're, again, if they're breaking, we're cannibalizing them and putting them into ones so they won't break. What are we gonna drill, baby drill with? We don't have. We used to have 1,100 when Trump was in office, right? We've got half that now. So it's going to take some time for us to go put our rigs up, right? This current administration put the boot heel on the oil and gas companies for the last 4 years. They can't just rev up and order everything going to happen. So like the next day, you get going. They've got to take time to manufacture these multi-million-dollar items. So I'm not worried. It will be a little rough, is my point, for the next few months. Again, we have an election coming up. I think after the election, that's when things will get back to normal, business as usual. So just kind of buckle up, and we'll go from there. If you've got any questions or want to know more about it, feel free to contact me. Again, this is James in the Giant Economy. See you in the next video.